I make big money, I drive big cars, everybody know me. It's like I'm a movie star, but late at night, something ain't right. I feel I'm being terrible.
Hello everyone and welcome to Moved by the Music. My guest today is a legendary music mogul and industry icon, J. Prince. He is the founder and CEO of Rap-A-Lot Records. J. Prince is a self-made millionaire and has an incredible history of major success in the music industry and with boxing, as he's worked to put so many artists on the map. He laid the foundation for the Ghetto Boys, Drake, Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones, Andre Ward, and countless others. Now he has a new book out called The Art and Science of Respect, where he shares an immense amount of knowledge from growing up in the 5th Ward of Houston, Texas, to his many experiences with people that range from Suge Knight, Puffy, Lil Wayne, Pimp C, to Al Gore, and more. J. Prince, it's a real pleasure to have you speak with me today on Moved by the Music. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah. No, it's a privilege and honor to be here, my sister.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, I want to congratulate you on all of your years of success in the music and in the boxing industry. Your history is incredible. And now you have this amazing book called The Art and Science of Respect, which is all of awesome.
Thank you.
It's great. And I love how the first chapter of your book, It Was Always Houston, opens up with you talking about how you were attending an event for the Houston Appreciation Weekend with your son Jazz on your right and Drake on your left, and you just looked around at the crowd and you heard the cheers and wondered how you got there. I literally have hundreds of questions for you to ask, but I want to start with this, the title of your book. How that came about, as well as how you came about having Drake do that compelling forward for the book. Was he the first one you thought of, or were there others?
Yeah, I definitely thought of a combination of people, but, I felt like Drake fitted the best, where my forward was concerned. And I reached out to him, and, everything fell in place. It was an honor for him to, to do it. And, I just moved forward from there.
Okay, good. And what about the title, The Art and Science of Respect? How did that come about?
Well, as I analyzed a lot of different titles, I felt like respect was the one that complemented my movement the most. And I wanted to go a little further than just the word respect. And that's when I reached out and kind of came up with the art and the science. And the art part, is simply the things that we imagine, the things that we dream, of having, visualize and different things like that. And the science is the knowledge and the ingredients that it takes to accomplish the art. And, when those two things are in unison together, it's one have to respect it,
Right. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, the title is very, compelling. You think about art and science as two major things in our world. And then respect, adding that word respect in there just takes it home. So thank you for sharing that. And, I was thinking too, you formed Rap-A-Lot Records back in 1985. And then afterwards you formed the Ghetto Boys. And I want to talk a little bit about that history. We Can't Be Stopped was the first Rap-A-Lot album to go platinum. And in part 2 of your book, Who You Became, there's a portion from a chapter in there where you talk about how the song Mind Playing Tricks on Me was like a catalyst to everything that happened next with Rap-A-Lot, because it was based on some of the days that led up to that epiphanal moment when you went into that closet and had that conversation and made that pact with God. So how important is it for you to listen to that voice that tells you when to make moves and when to fall back a little bit? And has there been a time that, despite your good judgment of a situation in the industry, that you were wrong?
Yeah, well, I feel that that's very important. It's important for all of us as human beings to tap into that intuition, that discernment that exists in all of us. Some may even call it the spirit. I believe that, we all have that. It's a matter of tapping into it, the relationship, strengthening the relationship where those signs are concerned. Every person, I believe, if you think about it, there was a warning before disaster, or there was a warning before, getting into a situation that you wish you hadn't gotten into. And it's
Right.
those signs that, we have to pay attention to. If it had not been for me being able to recognize the different signs of life, then I couldn't be, as successful as I am today. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even be free, possibly not even alive. So that's very important to read the signs and signals that's given to you.
I definitely agree with that. And I see so many people fall into that trap of, not trusting their intuition and not listening to it. And usually, that's that God-given, gift that we all have to be able to discern and make sure that we're following down the right path for us. And I think, like you said, when you listen to that voice and God's telling you to move, you move. You don't question it. It may sound crazy to everybody else, but that's not really their business. It's yours. So thank you for sharing that portion of your life. And because We Can't Be Stopped was the first rap album to go platinum, I want to talk a little bit about the Ghetto Boys. Back in August of this year, the rap community and many others, mourned the loss of DJ Ready Red. And I'm not sure how often you guys were in touch throughout the years, but how do you remember him? And is there one particular experience that stands out about, the kind of person that he was?
Well, DJ Ready Red had an amazing work ethic. He was a guy that, tried to come up with beats, 24/7. And, that's something I remember the most about him was his work ethic. In the beginning, it was he was about trying to find that hit song, and that's what it takes, to be successful in this game. If you missing that, you'll never make it. So yeah, I remember that the most about DJ Ready Red.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he did a great job with the group and everything, and I know the group went through a lot of different things. You first started out with different members. How did that come about?
Well, it all began with my brother. His name was Sir Rap-A-Lot, and I named the company after him. That's how I got Rap-A-Lot Records. And from there, I came up with the name Ghetto Boys because I wanted to be a voice to ghettos around the world. And I felt like, individuals would listen to Ghetto Boys, all around the world. And, I came up with that name because of that reason, and from there, I put members together, and I kept going until I got it right, because as you know, the first set of Ghetto Boys, it didn't work out, and I kept moving, I had that I can't quit attitude, and with having that attitude, I was able to put together a formula that worked.
Right, and it definitely worked for you. It's amazing. So I have this question I'm thinking about. I'm just thinking as I'm talking to you about how you were steadfast with what you wanted to do. And if you think about life like a drive-through, for example, and how when people go through drive-through, sometimes they get changed back. And that change or the coins as it's related to life are like little tidbits of information that are a big part or a bigger part of a lesson. And, some people they toss change back into their wallet or put it somewhere and it just keeps accumulating and they don't think anything of it until they need it. So one of the chapters that stood out to me in your book was conspiracy, because you shared a story in that chapter about your friend Frank helping you with what you called your entrepreneurial experience at just the age of 9.
Right.
And how you came across the horse and how in your mind, even as young as you were, you thought back to that carnival you were at. And you remember seeing people, pay to get on a pony and get a pony ride. And your thinking was, well, I could do that too with this horse I found. So my question is, When did you first realize that you were like a guru for generating money-making ideas? It didn't start at 9, did it? How did it all begin?
Well, I mean, it may have started around that time, but I didn't identify what it really meant until later on in life. You know, I actually didn't really tap into my gifts until, you know, doing rap a lot when I read the book Think and Grow Rich. You know, when I read that book, it opened my eyes and revealed my gifts, my talents that I was unaware of for years. You know, I had this entrepreneurial spirit, you know, as you're saying, as a kid, but was unaware of the gifts. You know, it's almost like having a knockout punch, and you fight and never use your knockout punch because you don't really realize that, oh, I can end this whole thing just with this power I have in my right hand.
Yeah.
So, you know, once you tap into those things, you know how to use them more to your benefit. So I was just a natural, instinctual hustler and, you know, exercised my entrepreneurship. But when I really tapped into my gifts and learned how to structure, you know, the powers that I had, I became even more relentless.
Yes. And that's, you know, really neat that you shared that in the book because it gives a history about how your thinking was that early. You know, a 9-year-old, you know, child thinking, you know, wow, I can do this too. If they can do it at the carnival, why can't I do it? And you were already thinking on that level, which kind of set the pace for everything else that was to come, you know, in your life, which is amazing. So let's talk a little bit about your experiences with helping people in the industry, especially those who didn't even realize they needed help. It's like when someone puts a shirt on backwards, they don't notice it, but everybody else does. And sometimes we notice the things that we do, or we notice things that we're not doing right, but not immediately. So when it comes to the entertainment aspect of things, can you share an experience with any of the artists you work with about their ability to handle constructive criticism or just to simply follow directions when you notice things were off and you actually brought it to their attention?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you know, I had to deal with that a lot because, you know, you in the hood, in the streets, you know, there's a lot of insecurity that goes on with a lot of individuals. And so happened, you know, I had to figure out how to deal with a lot of that. And one of the mechanisms of it was admitting to them that I wasn't a perfect person, because more is caught than taught. So, you know, one of my angles of teaching and getting the homies to ride with different things was admitting my handicaps in the beginning, but also showing them my track record of what I've done, what I've accomplished by humbling myself and being able to embrace new ideas and new things. So, you know, that is part of the blueprint I use to break, you know, those bondages and barriers that, you know, egos and pride will get in the way and stop your movement.
Okay. I'm afraid to ask you who had the biggest ego of everybody you work with.
You know.
Like, whose ego is the biggest out of everybody you work with?
That's an interesting question. You know, I never really put up an ego, but, you know, and it will pop out in strange places. So it's hard for me to recall, but, you know, sometimes ego is not a bad thing if you like direct the energy properly.
Oh yeah.
Or redirect it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I kind of viewed it as that, but a lot of those guys had, you know, ego situations in different areas.
That's funny. Well, in your chapter titled "How Do I Get On," you talked about how you really weren't feeling Drake's music at first, and how your son Jazz was out on the road with Lil Wayne, and kept letting him hear Drake's tracks, but he wasn't really feeling them either. And then you go on to say in a quote from that chapter, you can't listen to the first no. Many times you can't listen to no at all. If you believe that something will work, you have to keep working at it until it becomes right. So looking back on those first interactions with Drake, what was the turning point for you to start feeling what he was doing? Was it one moment or was it an accumulation of many?
Well, when my son Jazz used the word buzz was the first moment, because as I was speaking with him, almost trying to discourage him about Drake, he used a word that I had taught him and that he had said in many marketing meetings and rap a lot and heard me emphasize the importance of buzz every week. And he hit me with that very word that I had taught, and it got my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And everything changed at that moment because I want to know where he's buzzing. Tell me more about this buzz now, because I understood the importance of a buzz, and he told me Canada, and I lost interest again because that's too far,
Mm-hmm.
and I reached out to the homie, and he confirmed it, and I thought about it. So that got my attention again, and I had to move forward with him.
Jay Prince?
Hello?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit with the conversation.
Okay. No, I decided to move forward with him from that day forward.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just a great story, how that all came about and everything. So I wanted to ask you about that. And I'm thinking about something else too. I'm thinking about just America in general and the playing field in America. It's just never been, so to speak, it's never been on level footing for a black man in America. From police brutality to false imprisonment, and the list goes on. And, you're a highly in tune person and a man who seems to, gather knowledge from the world around you and through observation and experience. So what was one of your first experiences, or rather the awareness that made it crystal clear to you that you were playing in a game that was rigged against you?
That may have happened when I was a kid observing the homies be harassed and listening to a lot of their conversations about, police brutality, just everything you can think of where harassment was concerned. And I heard a lot of those conversations, and it wasn't really real to me until I started, being harassed and different things on my own. But it was a lot of eye-opening experiences. Beginning with the music game. When I decided to ignite my movement, with like-minded individuals, we were discriminated on and looked at as some form of illegal activity that was going on with us, just for 4 or 5 of us to move together. This was, in their eyes, was a criminal act. Brothers shouldn't be uniting together, movement at all, unless it's going on. So, it never ended, because, it was the beginning of a long list of police activity to come where my life was concerned.
Okay. And I get that too, because, growing up, the way that you did and seeing a lot of your friends get in trouble and the police and things like that, I imagine that, you would understand at an earlier age that things were not on level footing for you. You had to kind of, move around that, and you see different things in your life that make you understand what it means to be black in America. So I wanted to ask you that question, from your perspective. So thank you for sharing that. On January 30th, 2019, it's been designated as James Prince Day. Can you talk a little bit about how you came about getting a day named after you and what kinds of things are planned for the Houston community on that special day?
Well, I think that kind of came from a lot of the council members and mayors and different people where Houston was concerned. And I'm definitely grateful for them giving me that day. And now I'm told I have 2 days.
Oh.
So, yeah, I have another day.
So January 30th, and what's the other day going to be?
The other one is July, the something. I have to figure out that date, but it's July. I just got that one. But, I chose to spend my day serving people here in Houston.
Okay, I'm having a hard time for some reason hearing that last part of what you said. Now, what did you say about the people in Houston?
I say I chose that day, my J. Prince Day, to feed the homeless, to clothe the homeless, and just serve the homeless people here in Houston.
Okay, and that's great. I love that. And, now that you said that you might have another one, the one in June, right? In June?
July.
In July. So you have January and you have July, which both, of course, start with J. So I think that's kind of neat.
Right.
Kind of neat. Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. I think about that. So after we are all gone, people will remember us for a variety of things. What's the biggest message that you want your children to take away from your life as a man, as their father, and as a human being who's just being human?
I would say respect. I would like for them to remember me that way, and I would like for, family, friends to remember me, as a man that gave respect, a man that earned his respect, and a man that demanded his respect. And I would be happy with that.
Yeah, I think they would definitely be happy with that as well. And speaking of blueprints, your book is like a blueprint for those who need to overcome things like changing their behavior or through courage. And when someone is feeling like they're losing ground fast, like they've hit rock bottom, similar to how you felt in that closet holding your son, what message of encouragement do you have for them, people who are going through the worst of the worst moments?
Well, I would advise them to understand the cycles of life. And, I think I mentioned in my book, either you're in a storm, you just got out of a storm, or you're on your way to a storm. Mm-hmm. And every season is important, because if it don't rain, the grass won't grow. Won't grow at all. So it's important to understand the cycles. So therefore, you don't get overexcited and want to do anything drastic, because, it's temporary, whatever it may be when darkness is concerned. And you have to understand that, and understand that the sunshine is going to eventually come out, and, the harvest is going to come, and the fruit going to be there to pick and you can eat from. So, yeah, Those are words I would like to share.
Yeah, those are great words, because, you're right. You can look back. I do it all the time. I can look back at my life 10 years ago and think to myself, wow, how did I get here where I am now? Or, what I was going through, 2 years ago is not what I'm going through now. So you're right. Things do change, and people need to realize that, might be a dark day today, but tomorrow the sun's going to be shining, and that's great. So thank you for those encouraging words in your book about that as well. Now I want to talk about social media. Social media is awesome, and it's a very powerful tool as compared to what technology and communication was like back in 1985 when you first started and founded Rap-A-Lot Records. A lot has changed in music and in general. So in your opinion, as a CEO of a major music label, how has social media enhanced communication? And do you think it somewhat depersonalize his relationships, either industry related or otherwise?
Well, actually, I started rap a lot in the end of '86.
Okay, 86. Okay.
Right. But social media is, I think it's a beautiful vehicle. You know, it's something that I wish I would have had access to back in my era. You know what I mean? I'm still in this era, but I'm talking about the early days of rap a lot because, you know, whereas today, you know, people have access to push a button and get done in a matter of seconds that it took me a half a year to do. You know,
right.
I used to, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
to have access to this kind of power today is a beautiful thing if it's used properly. Of course, you can misuse power as well, but for those that want to use it properly, what a beautiful thing to have access to.
Yeah, it's definitely beautiful because it's just like within seconds, like you said, you're sending a text or posting something on social media and everybody sees it, and it's that simple, and it's amazing to me. I mean, everything, you know, social media is not going away. You know, artists also need to realize that too, that the more, you know, time goes on, the more we're living in a electronic and technology inspired society. So it's definitely something that's going to be here for a while. So I want to talk a little bit about that Drake and Pusha T beef that has been talked about some more. And I don't want to get into the reason behind it, but based on the long history you've had with Drake, I know you called him and you told him that after the last thing Pusha T put out, you didn't want him to respond. So in your experience, you've seen how damaging industry beefs can be. Were there any other reasons why you advised him not to respond?
No, I mean, you know, when beefs go beyond the guidelines where rap is concerned, then it's bad for business, it's bad for people, personal lifestyles. You know, it can affect many things. So,
Yeah.
you know, my action, I thought about all of it. You know, I just didn't think about one dimensional part of it. I thought about the overall portrait. And with me, you know, having the ability to think and think pretty good, you know, I couldn't sit back and, you know, not on my watch and allow,
Right.
you know, us to start destroying one another.
Okay. And that makes sense because you've seen it all. You've seen a lot of things happen in the industry, and I think it's great that you saw something coming, you saw something developing that wasn't good for either, and you put a stop to it. So I commend you for that, for the industry, for doing that. And let's see, I just think that, you know, there's so many things that you've done with so many people, that people look to you, of course, as, you know, an icon and someone they can, you know, get advice from. And you wrote a powerful book. And ironically, growing up, you weren't too much a fan of reading, though. Because in chapter 1, you talked about, you know, how you're 24 and you were outliving a third of your friends because of gun violence and drugs, and about how many of your surviving friends were locked up. And from a research-based perspective, knowing that scenario you described is occurring in many cities in America, boys who aren't reading by the time they complete third grade have been shown to be more prone to ending up in jail, in gangs, or becoming a victim of their environment in some way, shape, or form. How did you turn that around for yourself with the reading? What message can you give to young kids about the importance of reading and becoming empowered through words?
Well, you know, I believe life and death is in the tongue. And, you know, and I also believe readers are leaders. And with that being said, you know, it's so important, you know, for us as parents, give our kids that head start. You know, it's such a major head start to start reading, to be able to read, you know. And, you know, in retrospect, when I think about what I've missed out on because it wasn't, given to me. I didn't have parents that really put emphasis on reading. So I became an individual that kind of despised reading anything because of the books that was presented to me, and I felt like a lot of meaningless, not even being aware of the things that, so, with that being said, and readers are leaders, if you want to develop, but wanting it and doing the things for them to become two different things. So, I can't even stop overemphasizing how important it is to just not really to give them that to be able to advantage.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. We have a son. He's 3 years old, and like you said, sometimes children are not interested in what you just hand them. So I think it's important, as a parent, like you were saying, to allow them to have some kind of a choice in it. We go to the bookstore and we pick out books together. What are you interested in? Okay, well, you like cars and you like building things. So let's get some books on that. Show them that you're just as enthusiastic about it as they should be.
Right.
I think that's an important aspect, and it's amazing seeing kids develop that love for reading at such an early age, and I see that in my son as well. Well, thank you for sharing that. And so, boxing, I've read, was your first love even before music. How did working within the realm of boxing come about for you? And how did you come about meeting Mike Tyson and then subsequently working with Floyd Mayweather? Because you basically served as the building blocks for his success.
Yeah, boxing has always been my first love, and I got distracted in the music game, and it turned out to be a good distraction. But as things went on, I always had a desire in my heart to build a boxing gym in Fifth Ward, the hood that I'm from, because I never had access to one when I was growing up. So that's something I want to give to my community, to my hood, and I did. And after building that gym and watching the amateurs, spar and fight in there, all over again, that excitement of boxing was ignited. And I had a friend of mine that had a relationship with Mike Tyson to reach out to Mike Tyson because, I always believed in starting at the top. And he reached out to Tyson and told Tyson I wanted to meet with him to talk some business with him. And Mike embraced the invitation because, he had respect for my movement and he knew of me. So, we flew out to Vegas, and one of the things that I've always done before trying to attack or accomplish every goal is I always prayed, Lord, bless me. And my prayer was, bless me with a champion. So I went out there. I went out to the gym with Mike and watched Mike spar. And in the process of watching Mike spar, Floyd Mayweather walked in the gym. And I didn't know who Floyd was. I'm kind of new to the boxing world. I didn't know who he was. And he kept, trying to talk to me as I was watching Mike. And I was like, yeah, man, yeah. And he's like, man, I know about rap a lot too. I'm like, oh, cool. And he gave me his number. He said, man, if you want to do anything tonight, give me a call. But at the time, my focus was totally on Mike Tyson because he in that sparring. I've been to a few fights, but I never saw him like sparring. So I'm like, whoa. So anyway, to make a long story short, after the sparring, we went to Mike's house. He and I had a real in-depth conversation. He called his wife at the time and told him he wanted me to be a part of the team. I was excited because now, I left his house with understanding that he and I was in business together.
Yeah,
so
he had a plan.
Yeah. So the next day I got up, I called Mike, and Mike phones. I couldn't reach Mike. Had been cut off, disconnected or something. And I was left with Floyd Mayweather number. And I asked my friend, I said, well, who is this guy? He said, this is Floyd Mayweather, the 130-pound champion. So immediately lights went off in my head. I'm like, whoa, I prayed for a champion.
There it is.
And me and Floyd cut a deal within a week after that.
Nice. That's a great story because you were there looking at Mike Tyson and Floyd was there, and since Mike didn't come through or didn't answer the call, it's like, okay, well, who's this other guy? And there he was right there, and now look at him. So that's an amazing story. Love that story. Okay. Well, this question, J. Prince, is not related to music or boxing, but I want to know your favorite spot in Houston to eat. Like, what do you like to eat?
Oh, I love good food. I love good food. So, I eat a combination of different things. I love soul food. Mm-hmm. So, my grandmother cooked soul food for me every Sunday, most of the time. And some of my favorite restaurants, I love the Breakfast Club. We got a place called the Breakfast Club out here.
Okay.
It's really good. I go to Houston, go to this place called Gracie's, and I go to the homies. My homie got a soul food place. What is the name of his place?
Food is so good that it makes you forget.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah. I mean, Papa Red, that's his name, but can't think of the name of his place, but it's really good.
Nice. Soul food is just awesome. I have parents who grew up in the South, so I'm definitely familiar. I'm out west now, but I'm definitely familiar with the soul food aspect of things, so can relate to that. So thank you for sharing that. I know there's a lot of great restaurants in Houston. So this question can be considered incredibly simple, but interestingly complex because music means so many things to people. It evokes emotion and it brings back things to your memory, and it can increase or even decrease your adrenaline. So I want to ask you, just on a broad scale, how are you personally moved by the music?
I think it depends on, I listen to gospel music, and that moves me in a way where a lot of other music don't. So when it comes to gospel music, some of that music have inspired me in the midst of hard times. It encouraged me and inspired me. It uplifts me to, move forward with a different spirit, a different emotion. Other music, hip hop, soul music, some of it make me want to get hyped and and cut a step, and then some of it make me just want to think. So you have that's what music does to a lot of us.
Yeah, definitely does. So, Jay Prince, it has been a real pleasure talking with you today. Our conversation was incredibly insightful, and your book is definitely a must-read. And from the pictures you share in the book to the amazing stories about your life and the people you've come to know over the years, everything contained in those pages is absolutely powerful. So thank you so much for being on Moved by the Music today and talking to me about your life.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Take care, Jay Prince, and continue success in all that you do.
I appreciate you.
I hope you enjoyed that interview. The Art and Science of Respect is a must-read for anyone. Order your own copy on Amazon or give it as a gift to someone who could use it. Either way, you're getting a great book.